Hello everybody, in this video we're going to create a slot machine program using Java. A user is going to bet an amount. For the symbols of our slot machine, we'll be using emojis. If a user gets any matching symbols, they'll receive a payout. Then at the end, we'll give a final balance. If that sounds good to you, let's get started. Alright everybody, when working on a project, it might be helpful to you to tackle your project one step at a time. As comments, we'll list the different steps that our program is going to take. This will give us a rough outline of our project. The first thing we'll do is declare our variables. Then display a welcome message. Display welcome message. We will play if our balance, meaning the money that we have, is greater than 0. If we don't have any money, we can't play. It is a slot machine after all. A user is going to enter bet amount. Then I'll write a few sub-steps underneath here. We need to verify if the bet is greater than the balance. You can't bet money that you don't have. Then verify if bet is greater than 0. You can't bet negative money, so we'll need to check that. Then subtract bet from our balance. Once we subtract the bet from the balance, then we will spin our row. Our row is going to contain emojis, but we'll need to display it. We'll create a method to print our row of emojis. Once we display our row, we need to get a payout if we win something, if we have any matches. Then ask to play again. If the user doesn't want to play, we will display an exit message. Display exit message. So here's a rough outline of our project. We will begin by declaring our variables. We will be accepting user input. We'll need a scanner for that. Scanner equals new scanner. Type system.in within the set of parentheses. Import this class, import java.util.scanner. Then when we're done with our scanner, we'll want to close it. Scanner.close. We'll need a balance. How much money do we have? I will set that to be 100. 100 as in $100. This could also be done with other units of currency. We'll need an amount for our bet. Int bet. How much are we betting? How much are we risking? Int payout, how much money do we win? We'll be adding our payout to our balance if we win. And a string array named row. Our row is going to contain our symbols, our emojis, that will display to the output window. That's why we're creating a string array, to store all of them. Here are the variables we'll need. We'll move on to the next step. Our next step is to display a welcome message. Let's say something like this. I'll use a print line statement. We'll say, welcome to Java slots. Underneath this line, we'll add another print line statement. I will print the word symbols, and here we'll list all of the different symbols we would like to use within our program. I'll be using emojis. To pull up the emoji menu, if you're on Windows, hold down the window key, then hit the semicolon button. So pick some emojis that you like. Here's a few that I typically see. Cherries, watermelon, lemons, bells, and stars. If you would like to stick to a certain theme, feel free to change these. But these are a few symbols you may see on a slot machine. And I'm just going to work on the spacing a little bit. That looks pretty good. Just to make this a little more fancy, I'm going to add a bunch of asterisks as separators before and after. Not necessary, I just think it looks cool. And that's a good enough reason. Let's perform a test run just to be sure that this looks fine. I think that looks pretty good. Alright, we have our welcome message. Our next step is to play our game if our balance is greater than 0. This can be done with the while loop. While our balance is greater than 0, we will continue playing. Then we have to enter the bet amount. That's the next step. First, we'll display our current balance. Current balance, colon, space. Pick unit of currency. I'll pick American dollars. Plus, we will display our balance variable. We will ask a user for some input. Place your bet amount. I'll use print rather than print line because I like the user input on the same line. We will assign our bet variable, use our scanner to accept some input. Let's say next int. We won't deal with cents. We'll just bet whole dollars. Then we have a couple sub-steps. We have to verify if our bet is greater than our balance. We'll write an if statement. If bet is greater than our balance, we'll output the following. Let's say insufficient funds. We'll want to skip the current cycle of this loop. We'll use continue to go back to the beginning. Then we'll verify if the bet is greater than 0. We don't want a user to bet negative money. Else if our bet, let's say less than or equal to 0. We don't want a user betting no money. Bet must be greater than 0. Else we have to subtract the bet from the balance. We could say balance equals balance minus bet. But we can shorten this using the augmented assignment operator. We can say balance minus equals bet. Within our else if statement, we're going to use the continue keyword to skip the current iteration of this loop. So temporarily within my else statement, I'm just going to print our balance right after, just to be sure that it's all working. Let's do a test run. Okay, welcome to Java Slots. Current balance, $100. Place your bet amount. I will bet money that I don't have, $1 kajillion. Insufficient funds. Current balance, $100. Place your bet amount. We can't bet negative money. I'll bet negative $1. Bet must be greater than 0. Then we're brought back to the beginning. I will bet $10. And our new balance is $90. All right, we know that that works. We can delete this print line statement. We no longer need it. We were just testing something. Our next step is that we're going to spin our row of symbols, our emojis. After we subtract our bet from our balance, it's here that we'll spin our row. First, I'll print the following message. Let's say the word spinning. Then we will call a method to spin our row. But we will need to declare this method. We will do that outside of the main method. This will be a static method. The return type is going to be an array of strings. String array. And the name of the method will be spinRow. We'll be creating a few local variables within this method. But first, we do need to return something, because we promised that we're going to return a string array. In order for this program to run and compile fine, I will add the following return statement. Return a new empty array of strings. We'll be replacing this later, but we do have to return something in order for this method to at least work. We'll be creating a few local variables. The first is a string array named symbols equals, then within a set of curly braces, we need our emojis. Let's go back to the beginning, copy our emojis, then place them within this array. They do need to be surrounded with a set of double quotes because this is an array of strings. So let's take a moment to take care of that. All right, that is good. We will declare a string array named row. Our row is going to be empty. It's going to be a new string array that can hold 3 elements. Row is an empty array that can hold 3 strings. which will be picked at random. We will be generating random numbers. We need a random object. Random equals new random. Then import this class. At the top, import java.util.random. Temporarily, there's something I'm going to demonstrate. Let's display our array of symbols at index of 0. That should output this first emoji, a cherry. I'll just bet $1, doesn't matter. And we have our cherry. 1 should be our watermelon. Watermelon. Then 4 should be our star. Star. We need to choose a random number between 0 and 4. When we select our array of symbols, within the straight brackets, where we list an index, we will take our random object, call the nextInt method. We will generate a random number between 0 and 5. The first number is inclusive, the second number is exclusive. If your range starts with 0, you don't technically need this first number. You could just say 5. Let's run this a few times just to see what happens. So that time I got a bell, a cherry, and a watermelon. If we have more or less emojis, we would need to change this number. Why don't we use the length of our symbols instead? Symbols, then give me the length property of this array. If we were to add more or less symbols, our length is going to change automatically when we run and compile this program. So we'll do a test run again. And that seems to work. We are getting a random symbol each time. Let's delete the print line statement portion of this. We need to generate 3 random symbols. We can use a for loop for that. For int I equals 0, we will continue as long as I is less than 3. Then increment I by 1. We will take our row at index of I. In the beginning, I is going to equal 0, then 1, then 2, then the for loop ends. We will assign row at index of I equal to, cut this line of code. We're picking a random symbol from our array of strings, our array of emojis. At the end, we will return our row. We're returning our array of strings. Just to test it, I'm going to output using print row at index 0 plus row at index 1 plus row at index 2. I just want to be sure that we get 3 random symbols. There we go. We get 3 random symbols. We'll format the output later, so don't worry. We can delete this statement. We were just testing something. Now this method is complete. We can close it. We're returning a string array back to the place in which we called this method. We can assign this array. Back to the beginning, we will assign our string array of row. Our row equals call the spin row method, and this will return a string array, which we're assigning to row. Once we have our row, we're going to print our row. We'll need to create another method for that. We will create a static method. It's not going to return anything. The return type is void. The name will be print row. There will be one parameter. We accept a string array, which we will name row. After assigning our row, we will call the print row method. But we have to pass in our row. Because we have one parameter, we have to pass in a string array, which we are. So here's where we'll print and display our row of emojis. Let's output the following. I will display a space character, plus, now the string class has a few useful methods. Type string with a capital S, dot, call the join method. For each character within a string, we can join them together with another character. I will join them by a space, a vertical bar, then a space, comma, row. For every string in my string array of row, we're going to join them with the vertical bar, along with a space before and after. Here's the output currently. I'll just bet $1. Here's what we have. We have 3 emojis, each separated with a vertical bar. I'll add some of those separators too, those asterisks. 14 asterisks should be enough. Alright, let's take another look. I'll bet $10. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Our next step is to get a payout if there's any matches. We can collapse this method. We no longer need it. Now we need to get our payout. After printing our row, we will call a method of getPayout, which we still need to declare. We'll pass in 2 things, our string array of row and our bet. How much money did we bet? We need to declare this method. After the print row method, we will declare a static method. This method is going to return an integer, our payout. The method name will be getPayout. We have to set up the parameters. We're accepting a string array. We will name the string array row. And a bet. Our bet is an integer. Int bet. We do need to return something. Just temporarily at the end, I'm going to return 0. We need to check to see if we have any matches. What we could do first is check to see if all 3 elements match. Are all these strings the same symbol? Here's how we can do that. Let's write an if statement. If our row at index of 0, that's the first symbol. Now you can't use the comparison operator for strings because they're reference data types. You would think you could say if row at index 0 is equal to row at index 1, but you actually need to use equals. If row at index 0 equals row at index 1. If the first 2 symbols match, row at index 0 and row at index 1, well then the first 2 symbols match. But not only that, we have to compare row at index 1 and row at index 2. Do those match as well? We're checking to see if all 3 symbols match. We will use the AND logical operator. And we can copy this check, paste it, and if row at index 1 equals row at index 2. If all 3 symbols match, then we execute this if statement. Why don't we use an enhanced switch? A switch can return something. We'll use the return keyword, create a switch. Within the switch, what are we examining? Let's examine one of these symbols. We could just pick any. I'll just pick the first one. We are examining our row at index 0. All 3 symbols are going to be the same, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. We'll examine this value, this emoji, against any matching cases. The first case will be our first symbol of a cherry. If these 2 values match, we'll do the following. We'll write an arrow, and we're going to be returning something. Let's return our bet times 3, let's say. We get a payout of 3 times what we bet. For our next case, that was a watermelon. The payout will be 4. For a lemon, let's set the payout to be 5. A bell, three matching bells will be worth 10. 3 stars, let's say, is 20. Bet times 20. We'll add a default case too in case there's no matches. Default arrow return 0. Looks like I'm missing a semicolon at the end. If all three symbols match, return our bet times a certain amount depending on which symbols match. The getPayout method is going to return an integer. We will assign our variable of payout equal to getPayout. If our payout is greater than 0, we'll do the following. That means we won something, if that's the case. Let's output you won, pick a unit of currency, plus our payout, whatever we win. Then we will add that to our balance. Balance equals balance plus our payout. But we can shorten this using the augmented assignment operator for addition. Balance plus equals our payout. Else, if we don't get a payout, if our payout is 0, that means we didn't win anything. We'll output, sorry, you lost this round. Okay, let's do a few test runs. I'm going to keep on running this until we get 3 matching symbols, just to be sure that it all works. I will bet $1. Our message is, sorry you lost this round, and the current balance is $99. I'll bet another $1. You lost, you lost, you lost. It's hard to get 3 matching symbols. Here we go. I have 3 matching cherries. You won $3. And my current balance is $86. Now, if you would like to check to see if the first 2 symbols match, or the second 2, you can add the following code. Let's copy our if statement, paste it, change if to be else if. We'll only be checking the first 2 symbols. We can delete the second condition. If the first 2 symbols match, we'll give a reduced payout. Let's say for 2 matching cherries, that will be 2. For watermelon, that will be 3, 4, 5, and then 10. If the second symbol matches the third one, we'll write another else if statement. Index 1 and index 2 will give the same payout. Hello, this is Bro from the future. There's just one bug that I need to fix. The else if statement where we check if our second symbol matches the third, within our switch, we have to examine one of these 2 symbols. I forgot to change that originally. Both these symbols should be the same, so it doesn't matter which one we pick. I'll just pick the index at 1. Back to the previous else if statement, index 0 is fine, because the first 2 symbols should match. I just needed to fix that. That is all. Let's check to be sure that works. I'll bet $1. So my first 2 symbols match. We have a reduced payout of $3. But if it was 3 watermelons, we would win $4 instead. We can close this getPayout method. We're done with it. Here we'll ask the user to play again, if they would like to continue. We'll create a prompt. Do you want to play again? I'll use print rather than print line. There's one more variable we'll need that I'm forgetting. Let's create a string variable of play again. We will assign play again equal to, use our scanner, call the next line method. We'll want a user to type in either capital Y or capital N. After accepting user input, we'll make it uppercase using the toUppercase method. Using an if statement, we'll check if play again doesn't equal. For comparing strings, we use equals. If play again doesn't equal a capital Y, then we will break to break out of the loop that we're in. Then go to the exit message. One more thing we need to add though. I'm going to place a bet. We get that prompt to play again, but the program exits. After typing in a number, there's still a new line character within the input buffer because we're using next integer. we need to clear that input buffer. After this line of code, where we call the nextInt method, we can take our scanner, call the nextLine method, to get rid of that new line character. And that should work. I'll bet $1. Then we can play again if we type in Y. We display our current balance, we can place another bet. Hey, I won $50 that time. I'll type N to not play again, then we exit. The last thing we're going to do is display an exit message. We'll take care of that right here once we're out of the loop. Let's output the following. Game over. Your final balance is, pick a unit of currency, then I will add our variable of balance. Okay, let's run this one last time. Welcome to Java Slots. I'll bet $1. Sorry you lost, would you like to play again? I will type Y for yes. Current balance, $99. I will bet $1 again. I lost. I'll just keep playing till I win. Hey, I won $10. We have 2 matching stars. I'll play one more time. I will bet $10. And I won 20. We have 2 matching symbols. I will type in no to not play again. And we get our game over message. Your final balance is $117. So we came out ahead. Alright everybody, that is a slot machine game you can create using Java.